Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Theory into Practice. We are continuing our conversation with Carol, and we are going to be really concentrating on leadership and the application in leading and influencing through building the profession and the professional in emergency management, and how we can better do that, and some of the programs that are available right now to help at least give you some guidance on the application of leadership and becoming a better leader. So Carol, welcome back to the discussion of leadership. As speaking in leadership in general, you are a great leader in the field, not only of emergency management, but higher education. And as a mentor of mine in general, leadership is evident in what you do every day. So as you see leadership right now in emergency management, what is it that we are currently doing that's working really well, and where do we need work?
Okay, I'll start with what we're doing well, but the list will be shorter, and it's not out of disrespect. What we're doing well is we're coming together around some big ideas. And so that work has been going on, and emergency management's been developing a series of artifacts that captures who we are and kind of underpins or speaks to our identity. So principles, obviously, from many moons ago, I think it was 2007. And then we had next gen core competencies, whereas a piece, there's been curriculum outcomes and other pieces in the high ed space that have been done. And then most recently, the code of ethics and professional standards of conduct for emergency management professionals. That is a mouthful. That has just been completed, vetted through the emergency management community. Those things are good. They allow us to stand on them and say, this is who we are. This is our identity. It's not just Carol going up to an employer or to a governor and saying something. It's the community. And that has been really shepherded through two key places. I'm going to give credit to all the places, but really FEMA higher education program has been very good at creating, I'm going to call it like an incubator type of atmosphere for projects to develop. And then the other one is IAEM, the International Association of Emergency Managers, who has really tried to advance and contribute to these initiatives as well. And there are other organizations with the principles. NEMA was involved, EMAP, NFPA, 1600 group was involved with that. You have a lot of different organizations in the space, state agencies as well. But these critical things are the things we're doing right. They're moving us forward. They need to be done. We need to get to agreement, and so we can stand on these, and these actually create for us, the way I'll illustrate it is like a shield to external people who want to reach in to emergency management and strip things away or add things that don't belong. Where do we need help? We need to start standing up for who we are and take a more active role in communicating our value in spaces and the necessity of emergency management. You know, the thought that somebody could go, well, we can have a half-time emergency manager. Okay, I understand where that came from. I do understand our history and how we got there, but these kind of things cannot stand anymore. This has to be a priority in government at the very least. Right? Government has some duties. Keeping citizens safe is one of those general duties, right? It's not like, you keep a citizen safe from doing stupid things, but general safety and security, that is a government duty. We need to make clear emergency's role in that, emergency management's role in that government duty, and that needs to be a top priority. We are essential. And we know we're essential. And I think a lot of government folks know we're essential, but they don't really get the magnitude. Again, lives, livelihoods, quality of life, it's a pretty big deal. Show me any other profession who has as big a risk portfolio as we do, as big a space to protect. There is no other. If we are going to see, nail technicians, I'm going to call it cosmetologists, let's put it that way, or dog catchers, or anybody else who gets a license for anything they do, because it requires some subject matter expertise for this small little area where there may be some injury, like I might get a bad nail job or a bad haircut. Oh my gosh. It is, how is that licensed? And emergency management is not. People could die under our watch. Communities could be destroyed. It's ludicrous, right? I mean, as we say it, we know it's ludicrous, right? It's crazy. Yes, it is. And we need to start working in this space more actively. We need to say the work we do is too important to be in a place where it is an afterthought, to be buried in an organization or in government. The work we do is too important for us as professionals not to stand up and say, this is what we do. These are the things we need to do this job. These are the people we're going to connect with, and this is the value we add. And if you don't do this, you have missed your duty of care to your citizenry, government, or to your organization, or any type of framing that you're working in, because emergency management's everywhere. Even folks who aren't always titled emergency management may be sitting in those spaces of emergency management. So I think that's an area we must do more in. And I know it's easy for me to say sitting here in my house, I want you to stand up, push back, say, get out of my space. I'm all about that. Get out of the emergency management space. You do not belong in this space. You are not the subject matter expert. Get out. But I'd stand right next to you and say it in any EOC. I'd stand right up to you and say it at any conference. The point is, we all need to start singing from the same song sheet. We all need to start saying the same thing. We are the subject matter experts in this space. Our work is important. We need to be able to have the power in this space that is required to do the job. And we don't get it too often. And when we don't get it and the job does not get done correctly, we get the blame. I'm not down for that at all. And I feel that we're this close. We are this close to the precipice of really pushing over the edge that notion that other people can step into our space and say, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Again, code of ethics, being able to say, no, this is what we do. This is what we do. Here, we're showing you all these areas that we serve and our duty of care in these spaces, what's expected of us. These spaces where we have expectations and restrictions, right? Where we know there's vulnerability we must address. But these are the spaces we operate in. And that type of thing, being able to push that out, I think will help. But again, we just need to do more of that. That is a challenge. And I don't say it without recognizing that we are talking about people's jobs and them having to stand up. But I do say it knowing that the code of ethics is there, IAEM is there, state associations are there, all of us, academic institutions, we all need to start saying, oh, no. That's not how you do that. We know how we do it, because guess what? We teach in this space. We practice in this space. We've been doing this, for more than 5 minutes, right? We know our business. We know what is successful and what is not. We know the populations that need us more than other populations. We know all of these things about our practice in our community. So those spaces, we need to really just, the way I envision it is just literally like ooze, just fill in all of those spaces. Very unattractive example, but in those spaces, like, no, this is us. Step out. So that's, obviously that's probably the most important space, I would say, Dan, that we need to move forward on. I do think there are spaces for FEMA. God bless FEMA. I love all my FEMA friends. To kind of get some things in sync. You and I were talking earlier about the EMPG issue and some of the challenges with that. And really looking at emergency management and the way that our different levels support emergency management practice, and think about how some policies or programs may kind of undercut things, and that EMPG piece and the flow through and making sure that we get a dedicated amount to the local level is so critically important. So putting in, and this is not a huge, it wouldn't be a huge undertaking for FEMA to kind of put in some more structure in that space to make sure that local emergency management is supported. Because if it isn't supported like that, what you have to rely on is that everyone who would be making decisions on that position understand emergency management and its value. And right there, we hit a big issue because lots of folks don't even know. If I could tell you how many times when people say, oh, beyond the plane, what do you do? Oh, I teach emergency management. Oh, and then they look and they're like, what? Let's see. Oh, you mean like an ambulance? No, not ambulance. Oh, like the emergency room? No, not that. Oh, FEMA. It's, well, you're getting closer. Like you're like Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah, that's it. That's me. Yeah, that there is not a common understanding. And I had really been hopeful that the pandemic would help with that. But what happened in the pandemic, which was challenging for our folks, was our expertise wasn't as valued or used as it should or could have been, could or should have been. And because of the political dynamics of the pandemic, it really did not help us in that space. I thought, oh, people will say, oh, emergency management, my gosh, yes, you're everything, you're the glue, you're all of these things. No, didn't do that type of thing as much, but we have a real issue with that recognition of who we are as well. So the EMPG funds, and when you do flow through, that right there makes a value statement. It sends a value statement from the federal government to local populations where there are people who may not have any clue really what emergency management is or its value.
Yeah, and that's a point that I've made a few times actually with some of the individuals that I've had the same conversation with, as far as the organizations in which that are there, they're professional organizations. And yeah, I'm a big fan of them. I belong to several of them. I mean, FEMA's great. IAM is amazing. I am a fan of IAM and NEMA, state organization. But ultimately, my argument is that it's not the organization that's really going to make the change. It's the individuals within the organization, yes, stepping up into leadership and saying, and basically influencing the direction in which it really needs to go that benefits the profession and the professional. I mean, and I say it, and ultimately, and I say it, and it goes back and forth, benefiting the professional and the profession, but ultimately you get, if you benefit either one, the other gets better. Yeah. If you do it correctly. So ultimately I'm for the individual over the whole, but the individual strengthens the whole. Like we bring we into this and we do things together, but we have individuals making the decision to step into the leadership roles, or and it's not even it doesn't have to be a place of authority. It just influencing the direction of the EMPG. So if someone was there, was it really step into a role and say, we really need to change this and take on that role within the organization, who knows how far they could get with the support of IAM and NEMA and all these other ones, right? And the individuals that sit in there. But more than that, one of the things I really want to touch on with you, and this is an area that that you're the biggest voice in, I think, when it comes to, we as the emergency manager need to be in a place of authority. Mm-hmm. Versus strictly in influencing others and trying to lead them from the bottom or the middle. Right. We need to be in positions of authority, making decisions, in situations that need decisions to be made, not needing to go through approval processes to make things happen. And what we're seeing more leadership or authority roles, I should say, at the executive director and vice president and these types of positions for emergency management. And I think it's very important that we position ourselves to be able to fill those roles when they become available. And leading and becoming the best we can be is more than just a duty. It's a moral obligation, as you mentioned multiple times. People's lives, livelihoods, and properties depend on the work that we do or do not do. And if we're not doing that properly, we're failing ourselves, we're failing our organizations, we're failing our jurisdictions, we're failing the people we're supposed to serve. And the way we best do that is applying these things in the best way we know how every day. And that's stepping into leadership roles and saying, this is why I'm important in my role. This is what I do. This is how I do it. And this is how you can support what we're supposed to be doing. We are being the role there. We together is a huge thing when it comes to leadership and influence. It's not me, it's, I may be doing a specific aspect of the job, but we make it happen. And that's a big part there.
Yeah, this is okay. So let me talk about a couple of things in this on this front. So I love the we. The we is the most important word, but that's correct. You don't get to the we without a lot of I's, right? I have done some things. I have met the commitment. So let me talk about the Executive Academy, the EMPP program generally, and what that role is in leadership, and actually saying, we are creating leaders. We're going to make sure that we have people advancing through this professional development space so that we know we can have a kind of a line that they're going to follow through their career to make sure that we can go into these places where we are supposed to be having power. We should be having power. I've been screaming power forever about emergency management really having the requisite power to do the job they need to do. And sometimes it seems like I'm screaming into the universe and no one hears, but Dan, you've been listening. God bless you. So I'm in this space now. Well, okay, so EMPP, what did they do? Let's just talk about that program for 1 second. That program was a collaborative effort between EMI, IAEM, and high ed. So all those folks came together. They created that program. It was the whole EMPP program, a tremendous amount of time, incredible amount of effort went into that. If you've ever done course creation with EMI, it's no walk in the park. There's a lot of effort put in. So all that effort went in. They created the program. They have 3 academies: basic, advanced, and executive. Basic is for anyone who's relatively new in practice, can go. Great course. It's offered in the States, it travels around. Great. Everyone should do that. You don't have to do these in order, by the way, you don't have to have done the basic to move up to the advanced to move up to executive. However, if you're in a young career position, like your first choice, you're starting emergency management, you should start with the basic. If you're seasoned and you're like, oh, well, these didn't come along until after I've been practicing for 20 years, of course you wouldn't be doing the basic. The Advanced Academy does focus on leadership. It's kind of getting you into the sense of the leadership space and thinking about issues. Another academy that does travel around. You can go different places to get that academy. It's offered many times a year. Great experience. A lot of relationship building occurs in that academy. And really incredible program. The Executive Academy, which I work closely with, is for executive level leadership. And let me tell you, folks, and Dan's one of our alum, when folks go into the executive level, into the Executive Academy, that program is not, oh, you're in an executive position right now necessarily. It's not, doesn't mean you're the head of some major federal organization, although there's a wide variety of folks. It means that you're tracking in that direction, right? So you don't have to say, well, I'm going to wait until I'm the director or something. If you're tracking to lead at that level and to help make decisions that affect a broader scope of emergency management, that Executive Academy experience is going to do these things for you. Number one, and this is true for all of the academies, but the Executive Academy is incredibly powerful in this space. You will connect with a power network that'll serve you through the remainder of your career. And then we see a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Number two, yeah, I mean, it's an incredible network. Number two, you will be connected with people who are challenging your thinking in the space. You know, why do we think that? Why do we do what we do, right? Why do we think what we think? Those spaces, I mean, do we need to challenge our models that we're using? What types of things do we need to do differently? What's coming down the pike in emergency management? How can we be more innovative? How can we advance our cause better? How do we do policy, right? How do we structure those types of things? How do we inform legislation? How do we start changing the discussion in emergency management, the power dynamic where they're coming to us, not telling us what they think we should do? How do you do those things? That's what the Executive Academy focuses on, and contributing back and looping back to contributions to the profession. So at the end of the Executive Academy, you do a type of capstone project, and that project is intended to address salient issue that is either happening nationally or regionally, or some type of situation that we're dealing with, where it looks at what is the problem, what are the solutions, what can we provide that advances discussion or changes practice in the space. So that's what the Executive Academy does. Why is that important? I mean, it's 4 weeks of your life. And you, by the way, you apply. You don't just get to go, I'm signed up. You apply, and then a certain number of folks get in. Not everyone can get in. Not everyone's ready, and not everyone's qualified, frankly, to get in. So they pick the folks that are the appropriate folks, and they run right now, one cohort a year. And so we're on cohort 10 right now. I graduated from cohort 4. Dan, were you?
I was 7.
You were 7. Okay. So you have there's not many, which is really amazing. You're talking about a very elite group of people, right? I'm going to say I think maybe we're at 400, maybe total. I mean, it's a very elite group, and the group knows each other and they collaborate. And I would call it kind of a connected universe that serves the discussion space. And you'll see, if you look at anybody who's out there speaking in this space, I guarantee you many of them have been in the Executive Academy, because they're in the space to contribute. That's what the Executive Academy basically is. Are you in the space to contribute? Then you do the Executive Academy. So this part of leadership is important. Self-driven acceptance of your important role as a leader. As Dan was mentioning, this is the kind of thing where you can't go, I don't know, I'm not that person. Yeah, we're all those people. You're doing that right wherever you're at. That level of leadership, the level of responsibility you have to your community or the folks you're serving, that's already existing. Now we're talking about to the overall emergency management community. When you step up in this community and you lead, what you do is you not only help the larger community. The people I want you to think about is that poor emergency manager who is working in some small North Dakota county, who doesn't have any power, doesn't have access to all the things that you might have access to. That's the leadership you're doing when you get up to the Executive Academy level. You lead and you speak to the issues that we know all of the members of our community are having as a professional community, and the value that we're adding to our overall country, world, communities, whichever level you're talking about, organizations, and the fact that without us and without our subject matter expertise, outcomes are not going to be the same. We are affecting people's lives with our decision. The level of power that has, again, I cannot say this strongly enough. The scope that we have in our risk portfolio, lives, livelihoods, quality of life, is bigger than anyone else's scope. Now you might say, oh, a governor has a scope. Yeah, but the governor doesn't really apply anything as far as subject matter expertise. I'm sorry, governors. What you're doing is decision making. You know, there's some role things going on, but we're using our subject matter expertise to do that. This is not small business. If you're in emergency management and you're like, well, no, I just do things that, no. Your job is big. So that's a big piece of it. I think the other big piece, the other big piece of leadership in this space is being willing to speak things into existence and do the work. And Dan, you know this. I mean, we've talked about this, and you're a good example of that. Look, you know, when I started with the code of ethics, we talked about it. I know it's a critical piece of professionalization. It needs to happen, right? So I said, yeah, I'm going to engage with this. We're going to do it. If we're going to get this done, it's going to happen. And I applied myself to that. I also see a pathway to professionalization. I'm applying my time and energy to that. And like, oh, how are you going to do that, Carol? It's just, no, I'm going to do it. And as I do it and I tell the story of why it's important, others will come. And that's what happens. You need to believe that you are part of the solution. Anybody, I don't care where you are located as an emergency manager. I don't care if you started 5 minutes ago or 50 years ago. You're part of the solution. You need to step up and lead in the space. We need everyone. And let me say this about professional organizations. I think Dan's point is well made. Professional organizations are a collection of members who are driving towards the goals they want to drive toward. So he is correct that if you aren't in that and working in the space, being part of an association means nothing. If you're sitting there and going, oh yeah, I got the newsletter. Wow, okay, that isn't going to do it. It is a place for, I'm going to call it collective action, although not everyone loves that phrase, but it's a place for collective action. How are we going to advance our initiatives? You have a 4-president arc in IAM. You have your past, your current, your first, your second president that are coming in, the VPs. Justin Cates is at the lowest level right now. Judd Fried was the past president. Carolyn Harshman is the current. And then Kathy Clark is going to be coming in this next year. That arc helps carry projects forward. I've made a proposal to those folks basically to say, let's start with ethics. We've done that. Okay. Let's move on to talking about accreditation and high ed in a way that we're really going to start moving the ball forward. And then let's talk about licensure. I'm not talking certification, folks. CEM needs to stand as it is. It's a great tool for us to be able to identify who's put in the time, who's met this criteria, who's doing professional contributions. That's what the CEM stands for. It is an honorable certification that needs to stay as it is. I'm talking licensure. You have done basic things. You agreed to the code of ethics. You can now practice. You can have a license, right? Because if a hairdresser needs a license, okay, I'm pretty sure if you're protecting lives, livelihoods, and quality of life, you should have a license. You should be said, my goodness, you're legit to do this job. So that's the space I'm looking to. Now I say these things, right? And I put myself in these spaces to have these conversations, but people come along. That's what you need to do. That's where the leadership is. The leadership's in us, folks. And I know you're up for it because you have a servant heart. And you came here to help. And when you came here to help, all that's left for me to tell you is I give you permission and embrace the courage to stand up and say, yeah, I'm doing it. This is who we are. This is what we do. And this is what needs to happen in this space. And will we break a few eggs in the process? Absolutely. I don't eat eggs, so I'm okay with it. But you know what? For the rest of the folks, we're going to break a few eggs. Yeah, because that's what happens when you're developing a profession, when you're advancing power in a profession. Yeah, There's going to be some skinned elbows, broken eggs, whatever little metaphor you want to use for the analysis here. The bottom line is, it's not, there are going to be challenges, but we are the people. This is the time. It's essential. And so you can't wait for yourself to be in a position of power, although strive for it. You have to just step up wherever you're at and start speaking to the value and lead in the space you're at. So lead for wherever you're at. And, again, Dan's, I bet you could time and say, how long can she go before she actually has to take a breath and stop and pause so I can jump in? So I'm going to do that now.
No, it's, and I'm going to say it over and over again. It's amazing to listen to you talk about this subject and basically the contribution that you're making, the ideas that you're bringing, and the progression in the profession that you contribute to is amazing. So you can talk as long as you want to, and I'll just be quiet. But a couple of things I would like to touch on that I heard you say that I feel is very important, and it's kind of, I'm just going to be parodying you at this point, is that leadership and leading in general it's not a passive reactive thing. I mean, it is an applied proactive skill that we are actively doing. And you made a comment that most emergency management or managers are introverted, and that is very true. I myself am introverted most of the time, but we have to be extroverted. And so what I like to call myself an omnivert. So I can switch from both. I mean, in just general everyday life, I'm usually an introverted person. But when I go to work, it's my duty to step out of my comfort zone and engage the community and engage the organization and serve them. And to do that, I have to be extroverted in what I do. I have to be engaging. I have to influence people, and I have to make them want to do the things that are needed to be done. And that comes from active engagement and effort. You got to put effort into it, whether or not it's, you're very good at it yet or not. The more effort you put into it, the more practice you get, the better you're going to get at it. Next thing you know, you're one of the best mentors and influencers out there. And that's huge, as you mentioned, stepping up into the role and influencing the profession as it continues to move forward, because there are people that will look to you as examples. They will find you as a mentor, whether you know it or not.
Mhm.
So the influence and the contribution you have to the profession and the voice that you bring to our growth as individuals and as a profession is going to be seen by others and ultimately accepted and applied in what they do every day. So the bigger voice that you want to have in this whole thing that we're trying to push here, you'd be surprised at the amount of influence you'll have on people who agree with what it is that you're promoting when it comes to emergency management and how we do things. And as I've said many times, you are a mentor of mine, and I look to you for that mentorship, but I also look to you for leadership. And that's something that you don't even know I'm doing sometimes. So it's one of those things that from afar, I can hear you in a presentation that you do or a call that we're on, and I could be like, that's amazing, without really saying, hey, I'm going to follow Carol to the ends of the earth, even though I would. It's amazing to the amount of influence that someone can have if they put some effort into what we do. And that's all I'm really promoting here, is that emergency managers market themselves. They put some effort into explaining what it is that we do, how we do it, why it's important, and how we need to, and what it is that others can do to support us in our efforts. And the leadership that comes from that it will lead people to an ultimate outcome of being prepared for when everything goes wrong.
I think your point about leadership is really important, because too often folks view leadership as a space that you sit in, as opposed to your everyday activities and commitment to key goals, whatever that target that you're trying to hit. I feel like every time someone leads in a space, so Dan, you're doing the things you're doing in your space, it shows to others the possibilities in a space. And so, and the tolerance in a space for leadership. So what do I mean by that? I mean, sometimes in spaces you're blocked to get up and to have your voice heard. That is not emergency management. for everyone's information. Emergency management, I'm not saying that we don't have voices in the space. What we need, though, is more voices in the space. Emergency management is a space that where you can step into the space and be a new voice. And you can look at Dan, you can say, look what Dan is doing. Dan's doing that. It's going great. I can do that. Dan is influencing people by doing X, Y, Z. I am concerned about this area. I'm going to influence people by doing X, Y, Z. Here's what I can tell you. First of all, you're going to get really tired, but it's okay. It's a good tired because the need is huge. It's huge. I think I did huge, like I was doing my Donald Trump thing. So huge, it's huge. The need is huge. And what I want to say to you again is it's not about, oh my God, it's a big, oh, I'm the head of this or I'm the head of that. It's about joining in places. It's about directing activities that gain power for emergency management, that clarify the mission, that advance the mission in whatever space you're in. It's stepping up to a responsibility beyond yourself for a bigger community. And that I am talking about our emergency management family, our emergency management community, for that community, for the, like I said, communities you serve. But in the space right now, when I'm talking about power in these spaces, I'm concerned about my emergency management community having the power it needs to do the job it must do. And that is the thing that is on fire right now. We must have the power we need to do the job we know we need to do. And that is the space where I wish all of you would focus your energy right now. And that goes back to Dan's comments, like we need to market ourselves. We need to talk more about who we are, the value we add, the importance of our collaborations, that, we are the conveners of this team. We understand what needs to happen, but we are not doing it by ourselves. But here is why we are so important in this equation. Here is the subject matter expertise we bring in to know who belongs here. Look, I would just say, you tell regular people, I mean, non-emergency management people, particularly for local emergency managers, this is my favorite thing, is to have someone go through what their job is and all the things they have to do. And regular people are like, and you get paid how much? What? I would not do that job. They wouldn't do that job because it takes a special person. You aren't doing it for the money, although money is nice, right? I guarantee you that the reason you're doing the job is because you want to contribute. I'm telling you, the ceiling that's keeping us down from doing the highest level of contribution is we don't have power. We need to lead into that space. So that's really those places where I think, as we're looking at those, think about what you're doing. Do not wait for somebody else, ever. Dan, I just love what you're saying in that space too. Step up, step into the space, find where you belong in the space. Now, I could not do Dan's job. There's way too much organizational stuff going on here for a Carol to do. But here's what I can do. I think in this space, I understand the professionalization. This is obviously what I've devoted my emergency management work to. That's where I can contribute. These are the spaces I know. I'm not going to be able to do everything, but in the space that I can, I'm doing it. You should do it too.
That's awesome. That's a amazing place for us to round out this conversation. Ultimately, the effort and the intention there that to just open our minds, expand not only our thinking, but the actions that we take as it relates to our emergency management profession as an individual doing the job to advance the profession and the professional. You advance the profession, you're advancing yourself. Mm-hmm. And if you ultimately just take a little bit of effort, and this is something that I'm, with the marketing aspect of things that I'm really approaching emergency management with now, is you'd be surprised at what you can get if you just ask. And a lot of people are afraid to ask. And by really, but I got to tell you this too, for those who say that they want to have a more decision-making authority, and they want to have a more authoritative position inside an organization to make decisions. When you better be ready to take on that capability as a leader when you take the time to ask, because you never know what the answer is going to be, and it could very well be yes, okay. And so, Carol, taking the time today to talk to me is amazing. Your time is extremely valuable. I tell everybody time is the most valuable thing that you have, and the fact that you gave some to me today is amazing, and I'm truly appreciative of that. It's always amazing to hear your thoughts on emergency management, on leadership, and to know that you're involved in many of the things that I'm involved in is just, it warms my heart truly, because I know that I have a lot more to learn from you. And I look forward to everything that you continue to bring to the profession. So just thank you for joining me today.
It's always my pleasure, my friend.
For everybody out there, if you like what you saw here today, please comment, share, give us your feedback. What's important about what we're doing here is that we want to get better, and we want to do it together. And my goal is to bring us all in that same arena, and let's do it together. I'm Dan Scott, and I'll talk to you next time.